Hello, and welcome everybody. We're going to be having a discussion today about hosting retreats, and hopefully we can get into a little bit of the good, the bad, and the ugly. I like to see a little bit behind the scenes too. But let's start with introductions. And Crista, if you don't mind going first, we'd love to hear more about what you do and how long you've been doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the founder of a business called Lean Out Method. We help people get really crystal clear on what matters most in their business, and then lean out everything that isn't. So I really help businesses to simplify and scale and provide a really exceptional client experience. Part of that being in-person luxury retreats, which I love to attend myself. I host regularly, and I partner with my clients to create incredible in-person live experiences. So I've been doing this type of work for about 23 years now, and absolutely love it.
That's so awesome. And, I love Zoom, like living in the middle of the woods in central Wisconsin. I've been so thankful that I can talk to people like both of you all over the world, right? But there's something about in person that I'm even more and more excited about. The more Zoom I have, the more excited I am about the in person. So, Hannah, tell us a little bit about you and how'd you get into this? I'd love to hear.
Yeah, so my business is My Intuitive Health, and I lead mind, body, soul healthy virtual cooking programs and also culinary and wellness retreats in Italy, Greece, and beyond. Um, and I got into this because I have Crohn's disease, and so I had to learn how to use food to heal my gut. But I'm also a huge freaking foodie, and I love cooking, and so I marry the two, flavor with healing foods. And then I add a third ingredient in there, which is energy. And so I like to bring the energy of playfulness, lightheartedness, like who the fuck cares energy. And other people can then step into that and entrain to that. And it begins with the kitchen and the food that they're making for their bodies, but then it expands outward because I feel like life is the mind makes life out to be way more serious than it is. And so I try to kind of break that down a bit physically, emotionally, spiritually through food and retreats.
That's awesome. I've been going to and attending some cooking classes in a beautiful environment. I don't know if any of you follow my Facebook or LinkedIn, but the environment is inspiring. And then when I learn to make bread and I'm like, oh, that was easy. I'm going to take that home and I'm going to make my boys make bread. Like, that was easy. I'm going to pass it on and delegate it.
Totally. Like it's designed to be repeatable and fun. And that's the intuitive part, right? Like it's not like
Yeah.
something to be dreaded or anything.
Yeah. So let's dig into the retreat side of things. I am so curious about how to host retreats, what's good, what's not, what's working, what's not, and just anything that you're willing to share about your experience that others could learn from. Because sometimes when I'm talking to people, they're hosting retreats, but they're not profitable. And Krista, I think you and I talked about that, where sometimes we attend or create retreats because it fills our soul. And I think that's what I found for myself is like, I needed to create a retreat that filled my soul. And it didn't matter whether I made money or not. But Krista, do you mind kind of leaning into that and just going wherever it feels like you're called to go with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you think about your business model holistically, I think you sometimes have certain offers in and of themselves that are great, either lead generators, great profit generators. Sometimes you have other offers that serve as a feeder for something else. And I think when you look at how you infuse retreats into your business model, you just need to make a decision. Why are you doing it? What's the experience that you're trying to provide, the value you're trying to provide, and how it fits in that offer suite? And is the intention for the retreat itself to generate a profit? Or is it to enhance the experience and make it more enticing to join another program? Is it to be a feeder for someone to upsell and work with you one-on-one or in a group program? What is the goal of the retreat? Because not every retreat is designed to be profitable in and of itself. And I think the way that you create the experience for the retreat, the way that you make decisions about where you're going to host it, how much you're going to invest in it, how much of your team you're going to fly out and pay to be there and support you, how you approach all of that has to be rooted in why you're doing it and how it fits into your business model. Because you can do retreats of all different shapes and sizes. You could go all out and do the most luxury, most expensive experience ever. You could do something really pretty simple and very low investment from your part, and you can still provide the same incredible transformational experience for people. So it really depends on how you want to position it and where it fits. And one of the tips that I'll just share in general is I always like to think of retreats beyond that experience. I don't just think about it as the 3 or 5 days that we're going to be together. I like to think of, where does this person fit into my ecosystem? How does this fit in their entire customer journey? And what do I want them to take away out of this? How is this going to deepen their experience or quicken their transformation if they do this versus something else, or do this in addition to something else? But I also look at it as a great opportunity for my own business and my own team. If I'm hosting a retreat, I'm flying my team out to this amazing location. You better believe I'm booking a photographer. We're doing team photos. We're up-leveling our branding. We're spending a day together after the retreat doing our own retreat and planning for the business. So there's a lot of different things that you can do beyond just the 3 days or 5 days, however long your experience is. And I like to always think about it in the context of the client experience and also the team experience that you're trying to create.
That's awesome. Hannah, what comes up for you with all of that?
Oh, so much. I totally resonate with what Krista's saying. And, for me, I like, as you guys were saying, sometimes you're hosting a retreat just for yourself. And I got a very clear knowing that I need to do a culinary and wellness retreat in Italy. It was just okay, I literally have to do that. So for me, following my inner intuition and guidance was key. And then from there, it's okay, being strategic, where does this fit in the business model? What's the intention of it? And for me, I went the route of adding it on to a longer format program to entice the sale of that program. And it worked well, because who doesn't want to go to Italy? But it's also designed strategically for the client, because the way it works for my high-level mastermind program is that we start virtually for 4 months with this group, this cohort. And then at the end, we all meet in Italy for this amazing transformational experience. But it's not just out of nowhere. It's we've kind of been acclimating our systems. The clients have been acclimating their systems, physically with the food and the cooking classes, and connecting with the women that they're going to be meeting soon, to get ready for their soul's next evolution. Because you can't just you can just jump into the deep end. I've done it, but it's a little bit more nurturing, getting there, and being able to receive really that deep level of transformation that is ready to be expressed. And then before the retreat itself, similar to Krista, I always have the intention for the clients, the intention for the business, and the intention for myself, and just getting clear on all of those. And because they all matter, right? So yeah, I'd say that helps me keep it successful.
So if we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, what is something that comes up that you're I just wish I would have known this before I started, or something that unexpected things that you've seen, or what are you willing to share?
Oh, I'll share. So it's interesting, because when I was in school, I was actually a fine art major. I started off as a photography major. My husband's a professional photographer. With my jewelry business, I've done a ton of professional branded photo shoots. I know the importance of photo releases. I know this. I've had this beaten into my brain since the day that I started doing anything with photography. But at the retreats, because it's people that I know so well, because it's people that have been in my ecosystem for a while, my team did not prioritize getting those releases, because they thought that when somebody hadn't submitted one, she just forgot. They didn't realize that she was intentionally not submitting it because she was not comfortable having her photo or video taken. And we ended up not able to use any of the assets that we had from that retreat. So it ended up being a really, really expensive mistake. And on my part, I didn't communicate the importance of it to my team. My team assumed that it was just an oversight, not something that was intentional. The person did not say anything and chose to be in the photos and videos instead of excluding themselves from them, and then later said we couldn't use them. And so it was just an all around like, whoa. But what it reminded me of is sometimes we take things that we just know for granted, or if we're with a group of people that we already know or already have a relationship with, we can sometimes be more lax on things that we wouldn't be with complete strangers. And so I think it's really important that you go into the experience knowing exactly what you need, and you have either yourself or your team that's supporting you have really clear systems, really clear understanding and expectations of what's needed, and you don't miss anything and you don't make any assumptions. Because that was a really, really unfortunate and kind of heartbreaking experience to have all of these amazing things, to have invested in a photographer and videographer, and to not be able to use any of the assets that we created.
Oh, that one hurts.
Yeah.
And it really speaks to the fact that things are going to happen, and it doesn't mean that we messed up to the point where we can't do it again, right? Like, it's okay. Things are going to go wrong. It's okay.
Mhm.
Hannah,
Yep.
how about you?
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting that you say that, Krista, because I had the people sign that at the beginning of the retreat this year. And I literally, to one of my support people, I was like, should I even like give this to them? Because I knew them so well, and like, and she was like, I would. And I was like, okay, like, can you do that? Like, because yeah, it's something you take for granted. And similarly, I'd say like when I was first starting out, I was very loose with some of my boundaries, like, oh, pick whatever payment plan you want, or, sure, Venmo's fine, sure, PayPal's fine. Sure. And now I'm like, this is option A, option B, let me know. And like getting more hard ass about those boundaries, because then I learned in the next year um, how much more energy it takes to like juggle all of the different everythings, and even just payment plans in general. And also getting more concrete with the contracts, and just like the nitty gritty stuff like that like, I don't like to do, but I've seen, unfortunately, with people, having all their reasons of why they have to now pull out. And it's like, yeah, so that's some of my hard lessons that I've learned.
So tell me about experiences that you've been on and retreats that you've been on, that something that you learned from those experiences.
Hannah, you want to kick this one off?
Sure. Like, I've been on so many retreats because I love retreats. Oh gosh. So there's a couple different types of retreats that I attend. Like, one is a business type of retreat, and it's combined with business, but also like deep. No, actually, no. It's business, and also like how to deliver transformation, and it's almost like the hows of doing what I do. And so that's more learning type of retreat, with a community, and that's fun, but it's not like relaxing by any means. And then the other type of retreat that I've been on is like pure and simple transformational retreat. Like, it's designed to give you a transformation. And that one was in like Guatemala. I've gone on it a couple times, and like beautiful view. And it was also very heavy in some ways, in the sense that it was like a lot of inner work. And I know you guys are nodding, like you get what that means. It's like energy hangover from all of the like stuff that you see about yourself and then share with others, and it's like, did I really just share that with all of these strangers? um and and so what I like about that retreat is, one, the venue of it. Like, it was outside, it was beautiful, versus some of the other business ones were like in conference rooms, which like don't work for me. And I like some of the deep healing inner work. Like I love self-growth. However, for my retreats, I'm a bit more intentional about balancing that and having a lot more fun. And like in the fun is the integration of healing, because like fun is, it's the end game, right? It's like, why do you heal? To have fun. And so I like to dedicate a couple hours a day to like reflection and coaching and really giving people a space to share what's coming up. And then the other parts of the day, I like to do hands-on experience, like cooking classes and vineyard tours, wine tastings, farmers market, Aperol spritz parties, like stuff like that, to really balance out the wave, and make the healing and the deep inner work a little more digestible, if you will.
Krista?
Yeah, so I attend a lot of retreats like Hannah, and last year I attended 1 to 2 retreats every single month, and I've done a lot of that for a lot of years, and I really love them from 2 different perspectives. Well, 3 different perspectives. There's the inner growth, the personal growth as me as a human, me as the leader of my business. There's the business growth aspect, making amazing connections and building relationships with amazing humans. But then there's also the retreat host component where I'm observing what other people are doing and what I'm experiencing as an attendee to see, what do I really like? What do I not resonate with as much? Which pieces of this I could take back and really enhance the experience that I provide with the retreats that I host. And so I tend to do a blend of a lot of different ones. Some are much more that very introspective type of experience, like you were talking about, Hannah, where you spend days writing and journaling and going deep and digging up all of this stuff. And like you come out and you're just like, okay, what just happened? But it's an amazing transformation. And I think that is incredibly powerful. There's ones that are really more just about how can you meet as many amazing humans as possible and have these really incredible strategic discussions so that you can move forward with either great referral partners or great breakthroughs in your business, right? And so there's a little bit of everything, but I've taken the best of all of those worlds and created my retreat experiences leveraging that. And I'm always evolving things. I'm always changing things based on what I'm experiencing to make it even better. Because I think you need a piece of strategy, you need a piece of integration, and you need a piece of spaciousness and reflection in order for it to be a really holistic and really transformational experience. Too heavy on any one of those. And I find when I'm the attendee, I always walk out feeling like I'm missing something. Like I have all these great ideas, but I don't have time to integrate it. Or we spent so much time on the tactics, I feel like I'm missing the context and the strategy around it. Or I didn't have enough time to really think through, is this what I really want? Right. And so I try to integrate the blend of all 3 of those. And in January, I went to an incredible retreat in Mexico with a business coach of mine. And I really love the way she does her things. She's in the health space, totally different from mine. So I was fascinated to attend as an attendee and to see how she did it. And she introduced this really interesting structure that as I was sitting there, I was like, this is how I create more intimate experiences with larger groups. Incredible. It was like a 5-degree shift from something that I did. And it was something I experimented with in my retreat in March, and everybody loved it. So I think as retreat hosts ourselves, it's so valuable to attend other experiences to see what we learn, what we like, what we don't, and how we can integrate the meaningful components in what we do.
I love what you pointed out there with that 5-degree shift. And it might sound like a small percentage, but it is not. I mentioned that I've been attending these cooking classes in this beautiful environment. And long-term, I see myself and my husband living in a space that we can invite people in. And we currently do, right? But it's in a very, very small scale compared to what I see long-term. And so I went to this home where she's hosting events and it's their private home. Like you can't necessarily tell that because it's so well designed and it doesn't feel like their home. But going there and experiencing it, I came from commercial real estate development. And so I think about things like exit signs. Well, when it's a private home, it doesn't have that same feel. And I was like, wait, I needed to see this from a different perspective, right? Like just that 5-degree shift when I'm locking the bathroom door and going, wait, this doesn't have the same exit that a commercial property has. Like, how are they hosting events in their private venue? And so going and experiencing it and like being in person just like opens up the mind, and it's worth it. So love that you mentioned that. I want to talk a little bit about profit and how to make retreats profitable. Is there anything that you would share about expenses that people don't always think about, or um, when it is part of our business model, to make it profitable, cover our expenses to, whatever percentage? Open up our minds to some of the things that we could be thinking about that we just don't know about.
Absolutely. Hannah, you want me to take this one or you want to go first?
Yeah, you can go.
Okay. So I think with all things in business, the smartest way to approach things is to begin with the end in mind and reverse engineer your results. So as I said in the beginning, think about what your goal is, right? Nobody wants to go into something losing money. But are you going into it to make money, or are you going into it to sell something else? A lot of times, the retreat itself, people will approach it where they're trying to get more people in, and they're trying to then upsell a percentage of those people into another offer. Other times, it's added onto an existing experience, like what Hannah shared. Sometimes it's a standalone experience. And as a standalone experience, you want it to either be profitable, or you want it to at least break even, and you want to have a really compelling upsell offer on the end of it, which is usually, not always, but usually some kind of mastermind experience where the group gets to stay together and continue the transformation and has a container to actually be able to integrate with support going forward. And so I think you want to reverse engineer your results and look at it that way. The next thing you want to look at is minimum maximum, right? So what is the bare minimum number of people that you would want to have in the room? And what is the maximum number of people you would want to have in the room? I like small, intimate experiences. So I like to do between 6 and 12. 15 is my absolute max on something, because with my team, we're about 18 plus, right? Photographer there, we could be up to 20. Anything beyond that starts to feel a little big to me. I like smaller, more intimate, more deeply transformational experiences. So I know my minimum. I also know I'm not going to host a retreat if it's less than 6 people, because realistically, I can't break even if there's less than 6 people. And so when you know your min and your max, you can then figure it out from there. And if you're doing a retreat of 6 people, you have to look realistically, where are you going to host this thing? How much are you going to pay for it? If you're doing it at a hotel, great. You could get a room block. You could get catering. It's so easy. Everybody's in the same place. There's a lot of great things. And I've done some retreats at some incredible, really luxe locations. I do not believe in the boring, dark, cold 1985 decor basement room that most people end up in hotels. I do more of like the really gorgeous, almost like suites that you get that you turn into this incredible retreat space. And that's how I've done it. But what a lot of times you don't think about is, if you do a room block, you are on the hook if people do not book all those rooms. So you end up owing that money. And I have absolutely owed money for rooms that people ended up backing out and didn't end up paying for. You have the fees that they share with you, which is great. But what a lot of people don't always realize is there's usually about 30% tax on top of that. And it's a really expensive addition if you're not factoring that in. I've had clients completely lose their profitability by not realizing the tax component of things. There's sometimes daily resort fees, and those daily resort fees can be pretty extreme. Sometimes they will charge you internet per person, even if they're not using it, per day. So you want to be really careful if you're doing it at a location, that you're looking at not just the top line costs that they share with you, but what are all the other fees that they're going to be adding on? Because those fees can translate to multiple thousands of dollars depending on the way that you have it structured, and it can completely eat all of your profitability. But the other thing is your team and your support structure. If you're going to be hosting this retreat, well, how are you going to get materials from where you are to the venue? Right? Shipping can be really expensive. Storage can be expensive. Materials can be. Your team and yourself, the flight, the travel, the food, the Ubers, the cars. It's like you just need to think through all of those expenses. And again, begin with the end in mind and reverse engineer. You might realize you need 10 people to break even. Or you might realize you need to go with a different type of venue. You might need to rent a room somewhere, or beautiful conference room somewhere instead of it being this great in a hotel thing or this great, Airbnb, which I've also done. So I think you just need to know what success looks like, what break even looks like, what the upsell off of the back end looks like, if there is one, if it's not included in something that you're already doing. And if you're trying to make profit, how much do you want to make? Design accordingly. And if you're trying to have it be an incredible experience that minimally breaks even, and then you can upsell into something, how many people do you need to upsell? And have you structured your experience to naturally lead to that upsell?
Hannah, anything come up for you?
Yeah. So I knew Krista would have a better answer for this because I when I hosted my first retreat, I packaged it with my high level program. So I knew that I was going to profit from it because it was just higher than just a regular retreat. And I collaborated with the the president of the Italian Culinary Institute, who I know very well because I attended school there, and I knew what my costs would be up front because I paid X amount per person, and that included absolutely everything. And which is so that's like kind of the other route to go, right? When you're leading a retreat. And, I didn't know how it would be going in. I was like, okay, we'll see how this goes. I didn't even know what my offer was going to be on the back end because I was like, well, I don't know if I'm going to want to do this again. And once I started doing it and got there, I was like, oh my God, I absolutely can never do anything else again. Like, I don't want to plan transportation. I don't want to plan groceries. Like, I want to show up and I want to lead my group. And so for me, it's worth it to pay that all-inclusive rate per person. And then what I do is I make an offer again, like as well on the retreat, because it's the end of the program. And about 80 to 90% of the women book that. And it's another mastermind with retreat. So that seems to be working well for me. And so thankfully there aren't too many hidden costs besides like, my costs and, my upgrades to first class, whatever. But it all gets factored in. So yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's very helpful and very inspiring. When you think about the experiences that you want to be able to create in the future and that, Krista, for you, some of your clients want to be able to create, where do you see the future in retreats? What do you see, the next 3 to 5 years looking like?
So it's been so interesting because right before COVID hit, everyone was starting to offer more live events. And then obviously everything shifted for a while. And in that in between, is it safe to travel? Is it not safe to travel? Is it still COVID? Is it not COVID? In that place, a lot of people had tried to host live events and some had success, a lot didn't. And then all of a sudden, people were like, freedom, we can do in person things again. And everyone put live events on the calendar. And what ended up happening is people struggled to sell them because everyone had them. And so there was so much competing demand or, oh, I would love to come, but I'm already committed to this on these dates. And so what I see is it's going to settle in a little bit. I think there's going to be core people that this is a piece of their business model. Retreats will always be a piece of my business model. It lends itself to the work that I do. It's my personal passion. Even if I made $0 on it, I would do it because I love it so darn much. Right. And so it's like there will be people who really settle in and this becomes what they do and what they're known for, or a piece of what they're known for. And I think that that will be really successful for people. I think the people who are dabbling and just trying it out and will this work and will this not, I think that'll die down eventually if we look 3+ years in the future. But over these next few years, I think more people are going to start experimenting to say, do I want to do it? Do I not? So I think you'll start to see a lot of businesses adding live experiences. And I think those may look really different. Some people might just do a 1 day as more of a feeder event. Some people might do more of a 2 or 3 day. I'm seeing more of these little mini retreats popping up. things like get together for dinner, things like, get together in these small little containers as opposed to it being this bigger multi-day experience. And so I think there's going to be a lot of experimentation, but fast forward 3+ years, I think certain businesses are going to adopt it as part of their core model, will be known for it, and it'll be really compelling. They'll probably sell out in advance. It'll be more waitlist to get into somebody's experience. And I think other people will be like, this is way too much work. There is so much work in this. There is so much risk in this. Nope, not for me. And I think that that'll be a good kind of weeding out of things over the next few years.
Crista, I don't know what it is, if it's your voice or just your experience, but as I'm listening, my brain is just getting all these downloads on, like new ideas. And I'm like, I'm an unschooling mom. And in the homeschool world, that's even a little bit different for some, like what is unschooling, but I enjoy partnering with other homeschooling moms that are interested or curious. And all of a sudden I'm like, is that a thing? Can I create like an unschooling mom retreat? Why not?
Right? I think you just did.
I was like, wait a second, because they need support. What resources, one of the hardest things about homeschooling and unschooling is, where do I find the resources that I need for these kids so that I'm not, holding them back? And the fears that we have as parents come into it. The whole point of unschooling isn't that our kids aren't learning. It's that as parents, we're breaking down the things that we used to believe and kind of, what do we want to create now? So anyway, really inspiring new lanes of thoughts for me.
Yeah, I want to play with that for 4 seconds if you don't mind.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
So here's my thought, right? Is when you think about the audience, when you think about the moms who are experiencing this and maybe have a lot of questions, I'd look at, what do they really need? And what is the right container for it? Do they need some space and some time to really brainstorm and integrate and realize they're not crazy and they're surrounded by all these other people who have similar thoughts that might be different from the spaces that they're in every day? And so maybe quarterly in-person experiences would be amazing, or twice a year or once a year. And then in between, what would they need and what would that look like? And so to me, it feels like the retreat component would be amazing. And yes, do that. Like, I love it as you're talking.
Look at her building this out.
I know. I'm like, I have your whole business model architected in my head right now. But I'm also thinking, what is the overarching experience that you could create that this would be integrated into as the thing that really helps them with their transformation and with just feeling so at peace and so confident and so good about the decision that they made to do this. So anyway, Hannah, thank you for giving me this space to play with that.
Of course. I love
this is super fun
session.
Yeah. So, and if anyone is watching and seeing all this blacking, I'm seeing some internet issues, but I'm thankful that the conversation seems to be able to continue. So I apologize. I'm not sure exactly where that's coming from, but Hannah, thank you for that little going down a different rabbit hole. And it's, just kind of speaks to how easy it is for us to have these ideas, but then, okay, now what about the details? Right? So what are some of the other things that have been coming up for you as we just kind of explore what does the future look like?
Yeah. So I like that Crista gave the perspective of like the hosts of retreats and kind of that future. And I was kind of thinking of just the people. And I think it's amazing because I feel like society as a whole is shifting from that more masculine way that we have been doing things into this more feminine, new earth type of vibe. And I do feel like retreats are one of the best ways to grow within yourself. And of course it like starts with us, and it's really approachable. Like I feel like people hear retreat and they're not like intimidated by that, right? Like it's not like a 10-day silent sit. It's like, oh, let's go on retreat and maybe we'll meet some people. And so it's kind of a way to get people's foot in the door of this like huge growth experience that they might know that they're getting, or they might not know that they're getting. But once they get it, they're hooked for life. So I do see that being a really beneficial way for people to continue growing. And I see that increasing personally.
And for you, Hannah, with what you said about that high level of, you could say repeat customer, or like your clients end up wanting to come back and do it again with you,
Mhm.
do you see yourself having like a max capacity where you're just like, okay, if these same people are interested again, like, how do I grow my business? Is there anything that comes up for you with that?
Well, it's a lovely problem to have.
Right.
Um,
Totally true.
and wait, sorry, I just lost the screen. And can you guys still hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know where the screen went, but oh well.
We can hear and see you.
Okay, great. So I mean, on it, there's so many, and I'm sure Krista's brain's already like, "Doo-doo-doo-doo," but like
Right.
one track would be, only these are my VIP clients, these are my repeat clients, and they get this experience in Lake Garda. And then these are my new clients, and they get the experience in Southern Italy. And you know what I mean? Like I could definitely I could tier it that way. But similar to Krista at this point, and you know, I have not been in business as long as she has, but at this point, I agree with keeping the intimate experiences. Like 15, 16 feels like what I would think would be my max. But I've never done 25. So I'm not positive. But right now I would like to keep each experience intimate. And then just add on more. Right. Because like I'm not like I have time. Like I'm not like,
You're not
spending.
maxed out on retreats.
No,
You're like,
no,
I've got
gosh.
room for more. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I would love to do more. So I think just taking that as it comes and keeping the three intentions in mind, the clients, myself, and the business.
Mm. So who inspires both of you? Who are some people that you've seen some amazing results from, retreats from? What is it about them that inspires you? This is just a question for either one of you. I think, Krista, what I'm thinking about is, some of your clients even that you've worked with that have, hosted some amazing retreats. And I'm just curious, is there anyone that really inspires you? And maybe it's not necessarily a name, but what about it? What about what they're doing inspires you?
Well, so I had the opportunity last May, not this past May, but the prior May, to go to Necker Island. And that has always been on my bucket list because Richard Branson is one of those people who inspires me. I love how innovative he is. I love how he really is trying to change the world, as he's also a really incredible entrepreneur. And so that experience to me was such an incredible and transformational experience to be there, but to also feel the luxury of the experience, the way absolutely everything was included and you felt so welcomed and so cared for and so important while you were there. It was truly a VIP experience. So a little different from your question, but he is just someone in general who I really admire and respect. And to be able to take and spend a week with him on his island was pretty amazing and incredible to get to experience that type of luxury and VIP experience and just learn more closely kind of what he does. From people who provide really great experiences, I really love what Selena Sue does. So I've gone to a few of her events, and what I really like is she'll do 1 to 3 days or so of people together, and that experience in and of itself is good. But what I like that she does, that I think is so smart and so brilliant, and I don't see many other people doing, is she pairs the retreat with something else. So I actually didn't join for the retreat. I joined for the something else every single time. And I've met incredible people. I went to her 40th birthday party, which was one of the experience that was included. And everyone that was in that room were people that I either knew, followed, was part of their programs, or had somehow, connected with. I ended up creating such incredible relationships. I'm planning retreats for 2 of the people that I met at the experience. And so it's like, it's so smart to look at. You've already got people at this location. I already flew to Texas for this thing. What else can you do while people are there? And one of the ways I incorporated that is on the second night of my retreat, I always do a cocktail mocktail hour for everybody to get to know one another. And because I keep my retreats really small and intimate, what I've started doing is I invite local entrepreneurs in the area to come in and join us. So the retreat attendees get to meet all of these other incredible entrepreneurs, build their network. Some of them have gone on to hire one another. And so it ends up being a really great experience. So I'm probably not going to throw, and I'm not going to have the same draw Selena would for my birthday party. But that being said, I could absolutely invite local entrepreneurs to the cocktail mocktail hour and create this experience for people. And so there's a lot more of that that I've seen, but those are the two that come top of mind to me.
Thank you. That's super helpful. And I wouldn't have thought about inviting local entrepreneurs. Sometimes that's just kind of and even going back to Hannah, what you were saying about partnering with someone that's local in the area, like both of those are just really inspiring new lanes of thought. So thank you. Hannah?
Yeah, so actually similarly, someone I get my inspiration from is actually the president of the culinary school. And it's almost for the same reason. It's like when you step on that property, like absolutely anything you desire, you got it. And he holds that container. And so that's what I hold for my clients too. When they come, it's like they're traveling literally across the world. And so to be able to then step into a space where all of your desires can be met, like whether it's hazelnut gelato or like needing a tampon, like absolutely like anything you need. And also his energy in the kitchen, it's contagious and it's so vibrant and people are just entrained to it. And that's really one of my mentors who I try to emulate too, not just on retreat but in the classes. um and I think, especially just in this day and age, people are so go, go, go and giving to others that to just have a week where you are treated like an absolute queen, I think is really like everyone needs that, you know? So yeah, that's definitely someone I get my inspiration from a more practical business inspiration level. Darla Ledoux is one of the first people that I found when I started hosting retreats, and she wrote a book, Retreat and Grow Rich, and rich being an acronym for right-minded, intuitive, connected, and heart-centered, and also money. And so I've been to her retreats. I've worked with her, and a lot of the things that she teaches can be really good for that practical application of hosting retreats and profiting and creating a really fabulous client experience.
When you think about the retreats that you've attended over the years, can you tell a good retreat from a bad retreat by the marketing, by the price? Is there something that you're like, these are some of the signs to know whether or not this is going to be a good experience? It's kind of a tough question, but right now, I mean, sometimes we use price, but does price matter or does it? No? Crista, you're saying no.
Not necessarily. I've been to retreats that were one heck of an investment. Like I could have bought a car instead. And it was an amazing experience. And I've been to retreats that were under $1,000. And I've had great experiences and not so great experiences across the board, depending. So I don't know that price in and of itself is always a determining factor. But here's what I will say. Retreats sound really enticing and really attractive for a lot of people to put on. But if you are not naturally a really great facilitator, if you don't know how to hold space in person, in a room, and guide a transformation, and if you don't know how to manage all of the pieces, because there is a lot that goes into creating an exceptional experience. And if you don't know how to do that or aren't willing to surround yourself with or invest in the team to support you to be able to do that, it's not going to be a really great experience for people who attend. It's not that they're going to have a bad experience. It's just that it's not going to be as great of an experience. It's going to be really stressful for you and your team. And people probably aren't going to walk out with a level of transformation that you would hope that they would. Mm-hmm. And so to me, that's more what I'm looking for is, does this person, are they a good facilitator? Can I listen to them? Can they actually start and tell a story from start to finish? And I can listen and take something away, or are they all over the place, right? And so to me, it's more about the person that's leading it and how much I believe they can provide the experience. And then beyond that, it's more, is the experience being provided one that I care about? And are the other people who I think are going to be attending people that I want to be in the room with and feel like will help challenge me to grow more? Or is it not going to be a good fit for me? So those are some of the factors that I'm looking at. And so I don't know that there's like a watch out for this word or look for this
Mhm.
thing. To me, it's more just, I want to say it's almost going to be intuition, but it's intuition based on observation
Mhm.
of the person who's in their circles and how they show up and how they are. If you think they're going to be able to provide the experience that they want to provide, I'm sure they want to provide an exceptional experience, but will they?
Mm. So much gold in there. I had when I a couple of years ago when I was thinking about doing some of these things, I'd opened up my home and kicked the kids out. I have 6 boys. So when my husband's not a planner at all. So when I kicked the kids out and my husband would plan, my boys ended up without the things that they needed, like basic necessities, you know. And so I was like, man, I just don't think this is the right fit for where I'm at this stage in life. But there were so many things that I learned about that experience just in quote unquote practicing it, where I was like, oh my word, I didn't plan for this. I didn't think about having even 2 people and then trying to have some space for some one-on-one work. I had too many things planned and there was not enough time and space for it. And um, I realized I needed to back off, regroup, and kind of reconsider. But it's hard to invest in a way that you can practice. I mean, I was looking at my house, right? I was going for the budget version. And but some of these things that you're talking about, some of these overseas ones or places that, you know, are new spaces for people, how do you practice, you know, to say, I think I need to get better at this? Hannah, I apologize. I went down a different road for a minute though. But yeah, what are some of the things that you think help, you know, if you're looking to know if this is a good retreat or not?
Yeah, so similarly, like informed intuition, like completely agree with Krista. I am very intentional. Like I will invest, but I won't just do it just because. So for me, what that has looked like is um well, as I'm saying this, I guess I didn't know her when I first invested, but for the most part, I know the person. Um And when I invested in my first program, I binged her podcast before doing it, and it was, and that led me to an informed, like, yes, it like, intuitively and also, like, practically, and then since then, it's people that I know that are in this field that I know have run retreats, and at the end of the day, it's like how I can tell is if I'm excited about it and like I want it, then I'm like, okay, this is a yes for me. And like I feel that pull innerly, that's not a word, inwardly. I feel a pull and I'm like, oh, like I want to be there. That usually to me is a pretty good indicator. And again, it's people that I know could deliver it. I don't think I would find someone random on the internet and invest in their retreat, unless someone recommended it personally.
This has been so good. What are some of the things that you feel have been left unsaid? Anything else that you would like to share? Krista, I'd love for you to go first if you're up for it.
One of the things that I would want to share for anybody who is thinking about or already hosts retreats is we tend to think about, here's the content that we want to share. Here's, the result that we want people to walk out with. And I think that that's great. But think about the experience of the person from the time that they show up to the time that they leave. Literally, I call it playing psychic, where I literally try to envision somebody's experience from the time they are walking to the retreat space to sitting down to going through. Where are they going to have questions? How can you enhance their overall experience? I have little gifts and little touches that I do all throughout every day. I have takeaways. I have physical printed workbooks that I design and give people. I hand make every attendee a bracelet that takes the intention away of what we talk about. I select specific stones for each of the different things that we talk about, right? And so it's like I put a lot of care into the person's experience, and I really think through the timing and the structure and the ambiance, even the smells, the sights, the sounds, the everything holistically, because all of that subtle stuff, all of those little moments sometimes are the things that people remember much more than just the content that you're going through or the activity or the discussion that you're having. It's the feedback I always get is like, there was nothing you didn't think of. I felt so welcome from the second that I got there. You challenged me to do more, but it didn't feel like it was pushing. That's because I very carefully architected that experience to do that. And so I think you do really want to think about the client experience very holistically and think beyond just, what am I upselling? What am I teaching? And, what's the transformation I want them to walk away with? All of that's critical. But if you can create that really memorable, really deeply transformational client experience, that's what they're going to remember more than anything else.
I am not a Martha Stewart, or a Pinterest type person. And so what you're saying just speaks to how important it is to work with someone else that does think about all those details. Rachel said in the chat, "You make me want to attend a retreat with you, Crista." And she doesn't say that often. So thank you for sharing all that. And thank you for just sharing all of your wisdom today. Hannah, what are some of the things that you would love to express? Anything that comes up for you?
Yeah, well, like, just how magical retreats are. And I say that from a really tangible perspective. And so when I attend retreats, I see it. And when my clients attend mine, I encourage them to open to the magic, because you wouldn't believe the freaking synchronicities, and it's like clockwork. Like, someone is getting divorced. Oh, I have a divorce lawyer who's my best friend and is looking to take on a free case. Why don't you call her? Or someone is in need of money, and then the next day on retreat she gets this book alimony that she, or whatever, book royalties that she hadn't known. And it's just event after event after event that is the only word I have for it is magical. And it's each retreat, and I'm sure you've experienced this, Crista, it has its own soul, and it's really special. And the exact right people are always there at the exact right time. And it's this sacredness about it. And it's beyond any of our controls. It's I like to sometimes think I have the control, but I really don't sometimes. And then once you see these people come together, it's whoa, I couldn't have orchestrated this if I tried. It's the exact people that have to be there, and the exact events unfolds to get the exact transformation that they need at that time. So if you're considering a retreat, if you're considering leading a retreat, I'm go for it. And the magic will support you. And then Krista's practical stuff will support you even more.
Well, thank you both so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I'm excited to see what the future holds in terms of retreats and just really people in general, giving themselves permission to take that time, because I believe we all need not just vacations, but a little bit more intentional, time away where there's an intention around it. I need this space, and I know that this person is going to help me create that transformation. I mean, yes, a massage could be self-care, or, taking care of ourselves in different ways is self-care. But for me, I know business conferences are self-care, and retreats are definitely one of those as well. Where am I going? And hosting, like we talked about from the beginning, host if it feeds your soul. And for me, I love to host. So even though I'm not a Pinterest style host, it's being able to lead the discussions and facilitate the discussion that fills my soul. So thank you both so much for being here today.
Thank you. This is so fun.
It's great. Thank you.